Welcome to the Kpopcast. I'm your Kpop DJ and I'm joined today by our East Coaster and co-producer, Ariana.
Hey, guys.
And welcoming friend of the podcast and one of our co-hosts of the Ask Me About Kpop podcast and SHINee superfan, it's Shannon.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me today.
And thank you, Shannon, for joining us for today's discussion. We'll be discussing SHINee's Good Evening.
We'll be letting you know if this song is daebak or not.
But before we dive into that, first our hit replays.
Hit replays are songs we recommend you play on repeat or replay for the week. So Ariana, I want to know, Ariana Khan, what's making you hit replay?
Oh, well, funny you say that. I chose Khan's I'm Your Girl because, of course, I had to go with my namesake on this one. I actually had a full discussion with my boyfriend on if they named the band after me. Pretty sure it's true. I was really excited to see Yoona Kim was joining this duo after watching her on The Unit. I was really obsessed with her, and I think it's a really good example of the move towards R&B infused K-pop, which I think is really taking off right now. And I just love that the video is giving me some really good LGBTQ vibes. And I love that it's kind of with the lyrics of this song about like having an undeniable crush on somebody.
And you, I'm your girl, I don't understand. 애매하게 가지 마요, 넌 내 빙빙빙빙빙. No, you, I'm your girl, I don't understand. No.
Shannon, what's making you hit replay?
This week, my choice is Mamamoo's own Byul with her solo Selfish featuring Seulgi from Red Velvet. I love this song. I keep playing it over and over again. The music video is so cute. It's so very Mamamoo while also somehow being very uniquely Byul. And I love her friendship with Seulgi that she started on Idol Drama Operation Team. My favorite part of the video is when it looks like there's a really cool fancy car, but it's actually a tiny Power Wheels. It's so cute and yeah, definitely digging this track.
I wanna be selfish. 아직 많은 나의 wishing. 세상의 기준을 맞추기엔 제멋대로인 게 어울려. Sometimes being selfish 오해 말아 나쁜 의미는 아니야. 조금 더 솔직해질게. I love myself. I wanna be free.
And Pilo, what are you bumping to this week?
It is PRISTIN V, or is it PRISTIN V? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a stan or not, or if you can pronounce their name correctly or not. Once you hear this song by the girls, you will be hooked. This beat could honestly fly for something that you might hear from a girl like Tinashe, but it's in that glorious, unapologetic K-pop style. And can I say that beat is banging? Let's get it. It's PRISTIN V.
전부 네 멋대로 get it. 네가 원하는 대로 전부 네 멋대로 hit it. 네 맘속에 불을 켜. 누가 봐도 착한 널 달콤하게 속삭여 만져 놀래. 아무렇지도록 get it. 너를 모두 내게 맡겨.
All right, moving on to our daebak or not for SHINee's Good Evening.
너무 늦기 전에 너를 데리러 가 깜짝 놀라 너를 생각하며 지금 데리러 가 다른 이유 하나 없이 데리러 가 이 밤을 앞질러 너를 데리러 가 혹시 넌 발견이 날 떠올릴까봐 지금 내가 내게로 가 혼자선 그리울 밤 견디기 싫어 지금 너를 데리러 가
Shannon, so glad to have you on this week's episode to be our local Shawol and give us a Shawol perspective for SHINee's Good Evening. As we were discussing for the show today, you dropped that this is actually related to a piece of literary fiction, Le Petit Prince. So tell us, how are these two great works of art related?
So this is a fan theory that's been going around since Key posted a bit of a spoiler image with the caption, "I'm ready to fly." If you're not familiar with the children's story, The Little Prince, it's a kind of abstract story about a little boy who flies around to different planets in search of this rose that he's in love with, and he meets lots of different characters, and it's just really a beautiful story about friendship and love and loss. And a lot of things about this SHINee video and comeback have led the Shawol community to believe that this all has to do with Le Petit Prince. First, there's the fox imagery, which is on the cover of all 3 of the albums that will be released. And there is a fox in the music video that Onu sees. And in Le Petit Prince, the fox leads the prince to a well in the desert, and there's a well in the music video as well. Another thing that's interesting in the styling of it is the illustrated version of Le Petit Prince he's wearing sort of like suit jammers, and SHINee is sort of dressed in a suit jammers way, and it seems kind of purposeful. This is unconfirmed, it's a fan theory, but there's quite a few things that really feel like it has to do with this video, and most specifically, one of the interactions the prince has with a snake. His first line to him is "Good evening," which is the name of this song.
That's so smart. Some of the imagery going on here that I think caught a lot of people's attention straight out. Obviously, the empty chair for the missing 5th member. It's something that they wanted to address straight off the bat. It's probably helping to get further into what the rest of the message in the video was going to be about. Part of what I took away really quickly also is this idea of the media constantly watching them, especially through the tragedy they just experienced.
Right.
Every step of the way you see them being videotaped, and every room and every space that they're in, there's video cameras and film everywhere, and then also TVs everywhere of them being filmed, which I found really interesting. And I just thought it was really sad seeing like how Minho's in bed trying to like eat an orange and he's being filmed, and Taemin is attempting to just practice his choreography and he's being filmed. So they're just like constantly being watched in a way. I think part of what that is you see the quick section of, I think it's Onu is standing, I believe it's Onu standing under a light with an image of a conductor over him. I think it's this idea of them not being able to grieve or react in any way they want to be living in right now. They have to kind of do it in the box, exactly,
or under the direction of their label, right? I mean, they're being guided within that public spotlight. Yeah,
they went straight into performing to perform for their fans. After this, they haven't had a huge amount of time to react, and to grieve, and they're contained in a box through most of the video, some kind of box in different rooms. And the one good thing that you have throughout this is that even with them being contained in these boxes, they are always covered in some kind of green light, which is the color of the Shawols and the color of the fandom. And
it's Pearl Aqua specifically. Just have to get that out there.
Pearl Aqua. Ooh, that is a cool sound. I think it's cool that like it's this idea of like, it's not only that the media is watching them, but the fans are watching them. So there's a comfort in that, but there's also a reality of the fact that they have to behave a certain way. And I think it's interesting that they address that so throughout this video.
They have that contrast, between those moments where they're figuratively suffocating, be it underwater, under plastic. And then that's contrasted and alleviated when they get into the woods, which one might interpret as being the spirit world. Kpop Junkie, our favorite music video theorist, pointed out that the fox itself, according to Celtic symbolism, is often shown as a guide through the woods and the spirit world. And as SHINee is greeted by this fox, that could have a very specific message for Shawols.
Yeah, well, and especially because he leads them to the well where there's also the shadow of another member.
Right.
It's leading them to this new space to possibly connect with that person. Right. And I thought it was so deep in the way that it did that within just like, I kind of say this in kind of an SM video style, but it was still so very like SHINee's vision, Yeah. I real quick wanted to get into like kind of the dichotomies going on here. I thought that was really interesting that when they're in the box, they're together, but they like feel really separate and not connected and not looking at each other, not connecting with each other, but then they make the choice to escape together. They make the choice to go out into the unknown together. And then also I thought it was really interesting, just like little pieces of not when they're in the box not having access to normalcy. The one thing I noticed like really quickly was the fact that the fridge is taped shut and it's like overgrown with greenery. Which means they like not only can't access food in there, but there's no food to access, you know? And then they don't even use the piano in that room to make music. They're using it to like step on. At some point, Key beats the crap out of it. You know, they're using it for things other than what the item is for. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well, taking into consideration the feelings that they must be having right now.
I think that's what makes the like escape to the forest moment at the end of the video like so moving. There's a particular moment where Key takes a moment to glance back, and then you see just the hint of a smile before he starts sprinting forward, like into the sunshine. The choreography also changes at that moment, and it feels like a moving on. And it's very beautiful. And speaking of the choreography, I mean, again, this is something that feels so uniquely SHINee while also being so unique. The choreography is very, very modern. It evokes like a lot of emotion. My co-host Angelica could only describe it as moving. It was choreographed by Koharu Sugawara, who is sort of known as Taemin's choreographer. She did Move as well as some of his solo stages. I heard from a couple of people saying like this dance feels like Taemin, and that's why, if anybody was wondering.
I was, and that answers the question.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There are so many lyrical movements, and now that you tell me who the choreographer is, it's like, okay, that makes sense. Because if you look at the choreography from SHINee's previous song, View, that could work for this song. Like, you could, you know, vision swap it, like play the beat of this song and have them dance that choreo as we see some,
like they do on Weekly Idol, where you dance to a different song. Like
Exactly.
it could work. Yeah.
But where it really shines and carries through is having that lyrical movement that we get specifically for this song, and knowing the choreographer, that works, and it makes so much sense.
But then also this choreography is so tied to the story of the video in such a deep way. You know, we're talking about how they have to like work together to get out into the forest. You also see that in the choreography. You know, in the beginning, they're slouching in their chairs and they're surrounded by people, and there's just like a listlessness on their face, and you can just tell that they're just utterly exhausted by what's going on around them. Then it's after about the first chorus that you see that they start to help each other up. And they start to lean on each other. That's that moment where they move to the side of the chairs and they're holding each other up and dancing together.
The moment where they're all in the chairs and holding each other's necks is like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Oh my God. Yeah. You can see them build, like they used each other to build each other up, you know? It was so beautiful. And then by the end, you know, in the video, they've returned to nature. You get back into the choreo and they're just letting themselves go. And you can see almost a sense of joy, of relief and release, you know. And I've seen the choreo, the full performance too, that they posted, and it's just beautiful, you know. It's a really beautiful storytelling machine through the choreo, you know.
Yeah. And I gotta say, from just like a purely fangirl point of view, my co-host and I are very excited that they are using backup dancers in the stages.
Yes.
That's not something they do very often, but I always love it when they do.
Me too.
Co-ed backup dancers, I might add.
Yep.
Mixed gender.
Yeah. This whole comeback, it feels very, very much like it's for the Shawols as much as it is for each other. Like SHINee is 5, and that's what they say, and that's what we all say, and that's what it always will be. Like, these 5 men are so important to each other, and now they've been through something real, and we all have with them. And I know that they lean on each other so much, and we lean on them, and it's really, really beautiful. What we all knew, I feel like all the Shawols knew that whatever this was going to be, it was going to be perfect. Because we all said at the very, beginning, whatever SHINee wants to do now is going to be the right thing. And they've shown us every day that like being SHINee is the most important thing to them, and they're going to keep being SHINee. And I think that this music video and this first comeback stage is so like indicative of the journey that we're all going through.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful, and I really like it.
Well, let's shift gears just a little bit here. We discussed the message, the choreography, the visuals, but let's talk about this song itself, the audio qualities. What did you guys think?
It is. I don't know what I was expecting. I know I can say that, like because I feel like that's a uniquely SHINee thing, is that you kind of don't know what you're gonna get because they've done so many different things.
I expected some kind of ballad, and I am really happy it wasn't that. You know what I mean? It's not that it wouldn't have felt real. It just like this was such a good choice.
Yeah, I totally agree. It manages to be like very emotional and very poignant, but also like kind of dancey and fun. Like it doesn't make you feel sad. It makes you feel a lot of things, but like, you know, they could have gone like the tragedy route, and I feel like they're doing the life route, like, you know,
well,
I don't know.
Even the song on the album that is very specifically written for Junghyun, the sound isn't tragic, and it's celebrating life.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not trying to make you feel sad. Which,
definitely.
Yeah,
not that all ballads are, but
no,
often they are well calibrated to move you in that direction.
And somehow this moved me more.
Yeah,
you know,
that's really interesting. Going into this, I was gonna say the exact opposite of you gals. I was gonna say, like, why didn't they do a ballad, or why didn't they do a power ballad for this song? But to your guys' point, that's not what they want us to celebrate. They want us to have something that is uplifting and more of a celebration, and also on brand for SHINee.
And in a very interesting thing that doesn't happen often in K-pop, this particular song is only a single word or two away from being totally equal 25% line distribution.
So
which
amazing.
is amazing, because Taemin doesn't even have like a half of a line in their debut song. So like, it's like they've come a long way.
I obviously have to mention the sampling choice that they made. I am a huge 90s R&B fan. This was like my heyday, and they sampled 112's Cupid, which I know a lot of people were wondering if it was sampled or just taken, and obviously it was sampled. They are on as producers. This song is it's a ballad, which is why I thought that was such an interesting choice to add it and then speed it up. And it's funny because I don't obviously know the Korean part of this, so I just end up singing the words from Cupid in my mind just really fast every time I listen to it. I thought that was a really great choice to use that, because it's saying a lot about what they're trying to say in this song.
Yeah, and for those of our listeners who aren't as familiar, it was 112 who produced this track. And it could have been that SHINee made a decision to cast these producers for their song to deliver that same meaning, but within the SHINee brand and genre.
Cupid doesn't lie, but you won't know unless you give it a try. Ooh, baby, true love won't lie. 너를 생각하며 지금 데리러가 다른 이유 하나 없이.
The other thing I want to say is that, as per usual, the harmonies are incredibly on point in the song. The use, the mixture of voices is just so SHINee beautiful.
Right, and that so stood out to me, Ariana. The same harmonizing that we heard from 112 works to the same signature style that we hear in SHINee's Good Evening. When I define SHINee songs, I think of the way all the members harmonize together. For the ad-libs, big parts of the chorus, I always know that, like, oh, that's SHINee. That's not just a K-pop thing. That is specifically a SHINee way, the way they harmonize. And it was so refreshing to hear that once again here.
Okay, guys, it's about that time. Time for our final scores.
So for the concept, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, how would you rate this song?
I'm hesitant to rate it just because I'm very curious to see how this particular album's concept is going to fit in with the other two. In case anyone doesn't know, we're getting 10 more SHINee songs over the next couple of weeks. Like, this isn't over. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see if the rest of it is going to continue to expound on this sort of theme, or if the next album is going to be totally different. But I can say that the concept of this one for me is absolutely a 5. Like I said, whatever SHINee was going to do, it was going to be perfect, and to me, this is perfect.
Aww. So for me, it was pretty damn close to perfect. I was just absolutely blown away by it. I would probably give it a 4.7. Yeah, how about you, Peter?
Okay, guys, bad cop mode. I felt like it struggled to be one or the other. You guys have changed my mind just slightly on this. Again, going into this, I was expecting something to be one or the other. It was either going to be a bop or it was going to be something more emotionally somber. And what we got was something kind of in the middle. And for the casual fans, the casual K-pop listeners, you go into this and it might be hard to digest what they're trying to say. If it weren't for the Little Prince symbolism and storytelling, and without making that obvious, I think you're going to be really lost. And they could have made that symbolism, I think, even stronger and me even more obvious. So with all that in mind, I have to give it a 2.5. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Shannon, I know that's gotta be so painful.
It's okay.
I'm gonna hold out hope that the other two are both 5s for you. It will make up the difference.
Okay, that could be the case.
No pressure.
Yes, yeah. How would you guys rate the audio, the song itself, Ariana?
For me, I actually was pretty impressed by this song. I'm like not as much of an old Shawols fan. I'm more of the new stuff. So I thought this was actually a good mix of the two in a way. And of course, that 112 Cupid is going to push it just over to a 4.2.
Okay.
And how about you, Pilo?
It is a 2.5 as well. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I listened to this song like when it first came out. I'm like, okay, that was forgettable. Let me listen to PRISTIN V or PRISTIN V, or whatever. And this song, like, it's a house beat. It has a drop. And that drop, there's nothing unique about it. Like, it follows a formula. They're copying the chord progression from the previous song because they're trying to take over whatever metaphorical, spiritual message that had and trying to recontextualize that with SHINee's struggle. And then, okay, let's make it modern. Let's make it 2018. Let's do the 2018 house beat of You and Good Evening. And that's what I got. And I was ready. My body was ready. My soul was ready for something that could have been a power ballad. I was ready to feel the feels in a stronger way that either was a party bop or was the soul-crushing tragedy. Yeah.
Totally understandable. If it helps, their last Japanese single that was released posthumously is an insane power ballad that will just like make you weep and cry forever. So they did do that, but it was for their Japanese comeback. So I think that this time it was time to change directions.
And that is a really great point, Shannon. Like, in other words, there was a time and a place for that, Peter, and they've already been there, but they're trying to go somewhere different. Yeah. So I guess in that case, I would say I'm still going to stick to my guns, but I'm going to say, like,
that's fair.
Then I would have want something more of a pop upbeat party, And like this is kind of like on the fence.
In between.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you tend to not like the in-betweeners, I think.
I mean, unless they're trying to make a very unique message about it being in between. And I think they were trying to say that, right? With the concept and the theory that we're seeing, right? And like, I feel this, but I have to present this. The song, I didn't get that same level of struggle or conflict.
Well, Shannon, what about your audio?
Well,
it's
it's not going to be that obvious. I mean, I hope all the Shawols will forgive me, but I have to take a couple points off because I also felt like the first time I heard this song, I kept waiting for it to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like it stays a bit one note and I kept waiting for something else to happen. And it's also not my favorite on this Story of Light episode 1 album, so I'm going to give it a 4.7. I can't do them that dirty. I just say it's not all the way perfect. I have to take a little off.
Fair enough. So, with that all being said, taking in the concept, the story, the message, and the audio, is this song
Daebak or not? Yeah, it's Daebak for me.
Me too.
It is not Daebak for me. I am so sorry. Hey, but for what it's worth, I've definitely gained something from our discussion on The Little Prince, the nuances that they're trying to show, and everything that you've shared with us today, Shannon. Like, I will take that with me, but the song...
And rewatch it?
No, I'm going to take the message from our discussion today, and I will use that to think about SHINee and their struggle. But this song does not carry that message for me. So
I think that's totally okay. And like I said, I'm still holding out hope that something from the other 2 albums gets you, Peter. Like, that's all I need. It's just one win.
I will, Shannon, I will keep you updated as I listen to the other
thank
songs,
you.
and I will let you know.
Well, I guess last thing to discuss is Guys, it's been 10 years with SHINee.
10 whole years.
I know.
10th anniversary.
A 10th anniversary. I'm the little baby when it comes to SHINee. I got into them like probably a few years ago, but still it's not quite a 10-year anniversary for me. I think it's amazing just going back in time how many styles and concepts they have gone through over the years.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible. What does everybody have to add to their tenure with SHINee?
Yeah, concurring with your remarks, Ariana, K-pop is known for groups who reinvent themselves. And you look at SHINee's history, from like Replay to Good Evening, and they've reinterpreted their image and their message and their brand so many times within those 10 years. I think, we've had some great critical successes and some less positive successes, but it's something that I will always point to, like, my newbies to K-pop, like, look at how a group can grow. And I will point to SHINee as a shining example of that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I don't know if I can even try to quantify this as a crazy Shawol. Like, just for an example, I carried a picture of SHINee in my bouquet at my wedding, and my maid of honor and co-host and best friend walked down the aisle to a SHINee song.
That's amazing.
They're very important to me. Like, I'm not joking around about this. So it's hard for me to be like objective at all, but like, I'm so proud of them every single moment of every single day. And I like love them for all that they've given me and given the world. And I love how they love each other, and they're so talented. And like Peter was saying, they've reinvented themselves so many times.
Yeah.
And through all of these comebacks over the last 10 years, they keep being SHINee somehow in this unquantifiable way of like what SHINee is. You can listen to all the albums and they're all so different, but they sound like SHINee. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's real.
Yeah. So many groups maintain a single concept, like they're always known, like, oh, I'm always going to be this type of cute, or I'm always going to be this type of edgy. And SHINee is now entering into the exception category, right? Because so many groups, they maintain that concept and then they disband or they evolve into something different. And that's really the end of it, right? And then like solo members do their separate things. But it's 10 years now. We've passed over that 7-year curse. They are still continuing in spite of their adversity. They are one of the exceptions now for K-pop, and they will continue to be more of that exception as they continue.
Well, and for me, I think one of the main things I was amazed at is, as I came in later when they were really taking over more control of their music. And so you see their messages and their lyrics really taking off. You know what I mean? Like, their really beautiful storytelling ability has really come around this comeback specifically. I also just think it's a lot to say that each member has defined themselves in their own personal career also. I know each of them individually just as much as I know them as a group. And I think it's really amazing that they've had that freedom coming from a big three company, and that they, despite that freedom, come back together to always make music together.
Yeah.
My boys.
Yeah. So obviously we need to probably address the elephant in the room. What is SHINee's future without Junghyun? This is a big question.
Yeah. And this was actually something that we had been talking about with other members of the K-pop community. We actually, in full transparency, we've even discussed different ways to hold a whole episode just on that topic alone. And it may be something that we'll revisit. But one thing that I really want to underscore and discuss on this topic is that Junghyun has such a complex legacy, an artistic signature, and a unique soundscape. It's absolutely necessary that fans acknowledge Junghyun's verbal, lyrical, and prosaic legacy of mental health awareness, specifically his artistry concerning depression and suicide. He was a multifaceted, complexly branded artist that went to great efforts to make his pain and sorrow palatable. And it would be a disservice to remember him merely as just the king of good bops. And we will all remember those things. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there is so much more to it than that. And it's important to acknowledge the struggle when we think about Junghyun and his legacy, as well as SHINee and how they're also confronting this adversity and this tragedy. Junghyun wanted to be so much more than that, and we should do everything in our power to let him be remembered for that. And while we're on the topic, mental health is real, you guys, and other podcasters have also addressed this. And we need to stop tiptoeing around it. You know, everyone is different. Different people address these moments of adversity in different ways. And we need to create safe spaces for them to be different and to allow them to be the way they are. For them to cry when they're sad and say what they want to feel when they feel it. And for Junghoon's poet artist, that was a big part of that message and not something we should neglect. Okay, I got off my soapbox, so that's it.
Okay.
Something that I think is so important about SHINee's decision to like keep being SHINee is that I think the K-pop community has very fortunately not had to deal with a ton of tragedy.
Yeah.
K-pop is a bit of an escape and you get to have fun a lot. And this is something really, really real that happened. And in life, people die and then you have to keep living your life. And I think that SHINee has been such an incredible example. You know, like they have said in every moment that they've been in public since, like SHINee is 5, SHINee will always be 5. You address this topic by starting saying, what is SHINee without Jonghyun? But SHINee will never be without Jonghyun.
Exactly.
He will be with us. Always. And it sounds crazy to say it, but in this album, even though his voice physically isn't in it, I hear him in it because he will always be with all of us. He was so important and still is so important to what SHINee is.
Yeah.
And on the topic of mental health, I thought it was really encouraging and beautiful. When SHINee was on Radio Star recently, they said that they've been going to counseling as a group, which just made me feel so good. And I just know that as we go on, like we're all just going to hold each other's hands through this. And like, I love them so much. I'm so in awe all the time of how strong they are. And it's just beautiful.
And like something that I kind of took away from this is that I think, you know, especially when they came back so quickly with the Japanese tour and it was so emotional for them, some people saying like they owe it to their fans to do this, but I don't think that's what it is. I think that they're experiencing such a personal journey and they're sharing it with the Shawols, which is their ultimate support system. You know, as much as they have each other, they also have this incredible group of fans, you know? And I think when you lose somebody close, it's something really beautiful to have other people come and share with you in that grief, you know? And so this video, I think in general, kind of also took that on, that they have to share themselves with their fans, you know?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. They're the best, though. They're the best. And if we want to end it on a like note that doesn't make everybody feel so sad,
Yes,
like
let's hear it, Shannon.
they're SHINee, like they're beautiful, and like I think that they have a Shinhwa like future ahead of them. They said they just re-signed contracts again, and like they're not going anywhere. They've said they want to be SHINee until they're old men, and I believe that they'll do it. And I like can't wait to see it. Like they're so talented, and every moment with them is a gift. I love them so much.
I want to see the SHINee old men. I really do. I want that in K-pop. I want the old men in K-pop. So changing gears here, we had some listener feedback to our last couple episodes. Honestly, we're actually a little behind on our publishing schedule, so please forgive us. You'll probably hear like 5 other episodes before this one comes out. Okay, hopefully not that many. But every Tuesday, we have our hashtag Kpop chat led by Supermatic at noon or 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we actually took a break this week from the Memorial Day weekend in FanimeCon, and Supermatic was super tired and worn out from that event. However, we did get feedback from our most recent episode on Twice's What is Love, or as we titled the episode, Twice is Love. And fantastic Elastic listener Lu Yi jumped in, and he provided some much needed cultural context. In that episode, we said, or I specifically said, why didn't they just go with more mainstream love stories? That would have made it more relatable. And then Lu Yi pointed out, like, well, Peter, it's because those songs that they had in that music video were the mainstream love movies in Korea. So even though Leon the Professional may have not been a big hit in the United States, it was huge in Korea.
Interesting.
Yes, and he gives a few other examples, and that's why they selected those specific scenes and those specific movies for twice as what is love. So thank you so much, Luyi, for pointing that out. And guys, if I ever get something wrong, just give us a tweet. You know how to reach us. Tell us what DJ Peter Lowe is always getting wrong.
Yeah.
And I am willing to be humble and admit when I am wrong.
Speaking of being wrong, Jenna had a good point when she said, it's another great episode from the K-pop cast, even though Peter Lowe is wrong about the catchiest song not being catchy. Because What Is Love is so catchy, I cannot get it out of my brain.
So catchy.
So signing off, please share where our listeners can find each of you, and in celebration of SHINee's 10-year anniversary, which is your favorite SHINee era? Shannon, kick us off.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Shanecdotes16. And my favorite SHINee era, hands down, is the Odd era, where we got View. It's peak SHINee beauty. All 5 of them look incredible. And that album has 2 of my all-time favorite SHINee songs, including Farewell My Love, one of their greatest ballads.
And you can reach me at Ariana_Y_Con on Twitter. And I have to go with my first full SHINee comeback, which was One of One. It is absolutely me with that 90s R&B throwback for the title song, and quite possibly one of the best wardrobes imaginable in that
those
video.
chains. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so good.
You can find me at DJ Peter Lowe. Let me know, again, everything I got wrong about today. And my favorite era is actually summed up in one song, and it is Lucifer. Once I play that song as a K-pop DJ, like just that very first initial instrumental tease, like you guys already know how it is. You hear the beat,
Yep.
Everyone runs out onto the floor. They're all doing the choreography. It is so iconic, and it represents the golden age of K-pop. Don't forget to tell us your answer to this week's question by tweeting at us at the Kpopcast.
Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. And you can also find me and my podcast, Ask Me About K-Pop, the podcast, at AMA K-Pop Pod.
Yes, be sure to subscribe to them.
We're specifically a podcast for people who may not know anything about K-pop. So if you have any friends you're trying to get on board this thing, send them to us. We'll teach them everything they need to know.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you,
Awesome.
Shannon, for joining us.
Thanks,
once
Shannon.
again.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
괜찮은 미래도